This is Around the Farm, the podcast about all things ag, and I'm your host, Rick Myra. Today's episode is the sequel, the second part of our season-ending harvest review with the former host of Around the Farm, current Asgrow brand manager and lifetime Illinois farmer, Clint Schaffer. Today we'll be talking about how 2020 has affected Schaffer Farms, what they've seen for performance at harvest, and doing a bit of reminiscing about some of the great times that Clint had around the farm. Stay tuned for more. Well, hey, Clint, on the last episode of Around the Farm, you literally took us around the farm. And I got to say, that wasn't around the farm first. I felt like I was just, sitting on your shoulder, riding in the combine with Dad, sitting in the semi with Mom, and, as any good farm dad does, putting your son to work and making sure that he's building some of that farm character. Really appreciate you giving our listeners and our viewers an opportunity to get a look inside of Schaffer Farms.
Yeah, no, it was fun, jump up there and have a conversation with Dad and jump in and talk to Mom. And yeah, it's always good to get their perspective. So it was a good time.
I did appreciate some of the banter there. I'm trying to understand here, though. You and your old man, as you put it, riding in the combine there, had a bit of a disagreement just around how yields were going to come in. Looked like you were saying that the early planted seed was going to yield at least 5 bushels better, and your dad wasn't quite there with you. I mean, is this steak dinner bet really going to pay off?
Yeah, no, I'm a man of my word, so I will definitely be buying the steak dinner. But to kind of give you a little background on that, within Schaffer Farms, we've never planted soybeans before corn in nearly 50 years, right? And so with a lot of the research behind that, you see that a lot of guys that are chasing those high-end soybean yields are really looking at increasing that making that planting date a little bit earlier. So we decided, had a conversation with him, and I was like, hey, let's put these Asgrow beans in the ground as early as we can. And we went and we put them in on April 22nd. Now, unfortunately, because this is 2020, right? I mean, that's the year we're living in, right? That we ended up, the beans came up absolutely beautiful, great stand, everything looked great. And then on, I want to say it was like May 10th, we ended up getting hit with 27-degree frost throughout the night. And a lot of these fields, we farm a lot of river bottoms, and so they're low-lying areas. And anyway, there were some areas that got tickled with some frost. And I'm going to blame it on that. I'm going to blame it on a little bit of Mother Nature there. That, and then along with, we got literally 0 rain in the month of August. And I think that kind of hit the top end of our yield, at least for those early soybeans. Now, with that said, though, now here's the thing. This is what we probably didn't get to on that interview. We were darn happy with the yields that we did get. So they still yielded great. It's just they didn't yield as good as our latest planted ones.
Schaffer, it sounds a little bit like you're trying to justify a bad bet there, buddy. That's what this sounds like to me. There's a lot of 2020 references happen here. This happened, that happened. It sounds like you're buying steak dinner, brother.
No, regardless, I'm going to buy a steak. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. The key, though, or the goal is to at least get him to go on board to plant another 160 acres before corn next year. So give me another run. I'm going to go the chicken dinner this time. I don't want to go so high, but anyway, I'd like to try it again.
Well, you think about the dynamics of making those decisions on farm around which seed to plant, what order to go in, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to our listeners a little bit about what that conversation looked like with your dad around trying to get him to try something that is, as you put it, hadn't been done in 50 years of the farm.
Yeah, a lot of that is just relying on the data that we have, first off. Looking at, especially when it comes to the variety aspect. We plant everything within soybeans from a 2.6 to a 3.6. So that's a pretty wide band there of different seeds. And we do a lot of that because we want our seeds to get mature at different times so we can harvest them, earlier or later, depending on the field that we're going into, along with then, of course, that performance piece that goes behind that. So a lot of that is we collect everything within FieldView, right? And so before each season, when we go to make those decisions, it's what are the varieties that we're keeping? What are we getting rid of? What are we increasing? What are we decreasing? When it came into for the planting date, we started looking at a lot of just we're blessed to have the Monmouth Research Center here, Bayer's Monmouth Research Center just down the road. So, looking at some of their data sets that they have coming in, you see a lot of different farmers tweeting on Twitter, trying different things. And you kind of take a lot of those different data sets and really try making that best decision at that point. Now, again, we didn't put 100% of our beans in that May 22nd timeframe. So we'd still do like to spread things out on a risk side because you do never know what Mother Nature's going to do.
Now, Clint, I get all that. That's very interesting. But I've got an inside man at Schaffer Farms that suggests that the real linchpin behind the seed decision-making process is this guy here, Gizmo, who is obviously the decision maker, core person that decides these things on Schaffer Farm.
The operation just wouldn't run as smooth as what it does without Gizmo's input. That's for sure.
Gizmo may have some influence, but there is no more important person in the family farm than the matriarch. And I did enjoy to see that your mom is behind the wheel of the big rig, driving the semi around, and it sounds like she's had one hell of a journey over the past couple of years as she's adopted some new technology as well.
No, absolutely, and it's actually been pretty fun and entertaining to watch her go through that journey. And bless my mom. I mean, she is one of the hardest working women that I know. And our farm would not run the way that it runs without her. She's our, like you said, our semi driver. And right now, as I'm talking to you, she's out in the field in our Steiger 550 doing some ripping right now. So I mean, she's one of the primary pieces and keeps everything else running, keeps us all fed and everything else. But the interesting part for her journey within technology is, again, we always want to continue to maintain the latest or the cutting edge technology on Schaffer Farms. And a lot of that goes into, we want to continue to drive efficiencies. We want to make things easier. We want to make things faster, whatever that is. And one of those key pieces was auto steering. And we literally started out, believe it or not, we had a light bar on an old HP handheld. Do you remember those old PDAs that the people used to carry around? And it was this little app that would run that would connect to a GPS, and it would tell you whether you were on your line or not. That then came into a larger light bar that was out on the hood that was a little bit easier to follow, followed by a motor, an external motor that would actually attach to the steering wheel. And that motor is now actually steering the wheel itself, to then actually integrating in with a RTK signal with wrapped into the hydraulics. And each one of those steps requires training and patience and things of that nature. And Mom talked about it, I mean, at first she wanted to throw it out the window, and 45 minutes after running it, she's like, bring me my book. This thing is awesome.
It's amazing how technology will do that to you, right? It can always be frustrating on the front end. Then once you get comfortable with it, you don't want to live without it. And it never ceases to amaze me how every time the new technology comes out, it seems like you run through that exact same process again of, this is stupid, I like the old way better. And then once you get used to it, you can't imagine going back.
Yeah, no, and Dad and I always laugh, whether it's FieldView or whether it's our planter or our other monitors that are in there as well, like our 2020 or things of that nature. We always laugh because every time there's a firmware update, you always feel like we're going to have to relearn something, right? And so that's always a key. We always usually call it calibration day. And there's usually a day in the springtime that when we will hook up the planter, we get out into the field and it's like, nobody's around to bother us. Let's figure out all the firmware updates and let's get everything calibrated. And the same thing with the harvest. We always want to make sure that, hey, we're going to take a day and make sure our yield monitor is calibrated and everything else. So, but it's always that kind of that relearning of things as technology progresses.
Now, one thing I did take away, Clint, from literally around the farm at Schaffer Farms was that while your dad and your mom are really taking a high-tech approach to the farm, I'm encouraged to see that your parenting is taking a very low-tech approach to building character. Did really enjoy you having Devin out there in the heat and sun working in the grain bin. I mean, that's the type of stuff that will help build his character for the future.
Hey, I tell you what, there is nothing better to build character than about a 95-degree day, and you got to be in this hot metal grain bin scooping corn. So, yes, he is. He's reached that age that he can actually start slinging a shovel around or pushing a broom, and is finding out all those real fun jobs that the dad and I can put him up to there. So, he's having fun. The funny thing is with him, he also plays Farming Simulator. It's this video game. So what's funny is he knows a lot more about like the equipment numbers and all the different brands. And he'll be like, oh, this tractor and this model year and this number. And he knows them all because he's buying them over there on his Farming Simulator. And then he gets into grandpa's stuff and he's like, hey, now we got the real thing. So it's kind of funny to see that little piece of it.
Listen, these kids today, they've got it too easy, Schaffer. I mean, When you and I were young, we had the die-cast tractors and combines, and we were farming the living room, right? You had to make all that stuff up. You didn't have no software to be out there and telling you all this real-world stuff. You know, I was making sure that I planted the living room around 9 a.m. and about 9:15, it was time to harvest that stuff, man.
You darn right. I was right there, man. I'm right there with you. So, nope, I totally agree.
It's funny the inverse, though, right? You think about it, and the kids today are, your son is probably amazing. You know, we've talked about it before, some of the video games he plays, the Farming Simulator, they just pick all that stuff so easily. It's almost like you have to work backwards with them in that, hey, we're going to work on the basic stuff that happens in the real world, and you're going to have to learn about all that stuff because you're already really good at all this software stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting, that spin on the technology piece where, it used to be, for you and I's generation, we had to learn and pick up that technology side of it. And I think right to your point, the kids nowadays they're immersed in technology. I mean, everything that he does. I mean, heck, again, 2020, he's been remote learning, right? I mean, so technology is a key piece to a lot of those kids, and I think they're just picking it up fantastic. So.
He's at a better age for remote learning than my oldest. My oldest is in first grade, and I've realized that remote learning for first graders is actually code for homeschooling.
Yeah. Luckily, he's old enough. I haven't had to contend with that too much, but I could only imagine.
Well, speaking of the dumpster fire that has been 2020, there have been some good things that have happened in the year of 2020, and this really being our wrap-up episode for Around the Farm for the year here as we come out of harvest, look back at the past year, visit with you as the original host of the show. If you look back at 2020 and you kind of give us your highlights from a perspective of a farmer on Schaffer Farms, what are some of the things that stick out to you as some of the high points and maybe some of the challenges?
Yeah, I mean, and it's really interesting, Rick. I mean, every year, we kind of reassess and kind of see how the year went. This year has been, no different than that. There was a lot of good things that happened throughout this year on our farm. We had a fantastic spring. Everything got planted well. Emergence was really great across the board. In the middle of all that, or shortly thereafter, my old man had triple bypass surgery and carotid surgery, and got through all that just fine. So that's a personal note. That was a very successful aspect to get him back and recovered. And then we had some challenges. Like I said, we had some frost that ended up hitting our crop there early. We don't expect May frost in Illinois. I mean, it's just not typically what we have to contend with.
Listen, there's only one way to explain that, Clint. It's 2020. This past weekend, I was hanging out with the kids in shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of November. You've got frost in May. Pigs fly, cats bark. It's 2020, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and then, when you go through the year here, Rick, now we didn't get it like Iowa. That Draco that went through, we didn't get it that bad, but we got hit with about 3 to 4 different wind events, and so we did fight some down corn on our farm. And like I said, nothing to the extent that the folks in Iowa had to contend with, but that does present its own challenges, right? And it does take off some of the top end yields. Although we were incredibly happy with the yields that we had this year, with some of these struggles that we had. Again, no rain throughout the entire month of August. We had our second best soybean crop, and we probably had still a top 5 or 6 in corn. So we're incredibly happy and grateful that we did have the season that we had. But it was filled full of stressful times and some painful moments. But hey, that's every year. We'll push through it, and we'll put another crop in next year.
Okay, that's the resilience of agriculture, right? There is no normal year anymore. It feels like there are always challenges, always things to work out, and perseverance is really the word that sums up the way you've got to approach it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then I tip my hat to Mom and Dad. They continue to do this, and with very minimal help. And in the fall, I'll help in, and my uncles help a little bit to run in the auger wagon and whatnot. But for those two to get up at and do everything that they do on a daily basis and keep on putting the crop in and taking it out, I look up to my parents a lot on that aspect.
Well, they seem like they've got an amazing operation going there, and I do hope that they put you to work afterwards. I mean, your dad's driving the combine, and you're there holding the phone and chatting. Your mom's driving the semi. You're still sitting there on the phone and chatting. Your son's scooping out the grain bins, and you're on the phone and chatting. I hope that after you put that phone down, they put your butt to work.
Hey, to every great movie that you've ever watched, Rick, a great cameraman is sitting there pointing the camera. And that was just my duty at that point in time. That was my job that day.
You've taken on the role in the organization of filmographer. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yeah, at least on Schaffer Farms right now.
The Steven Spielberg of agricultural filming, Clint Schaffer, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, there we go.
Look, Gizmo agrees. Well, hey, if we're going to talk about 2020, Clint, you can't talk about 2020 without talking about the pandemic. And would love to hear from you and your perspective with Schaffer Farms and the conversations you've had up there in northwestern Illinois. How do you perceive that the pandemic continues to affect the farm economy and what we might see in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's affected, really, I would say all facets of it. And when you start looking at it, from a personal aspect, again, I talked about my dad's surgery. That got delayed almost 2 months because of that, right? Which can put people into some tough situations. When we start looking at just how business is done, and hey, we see this within DeKalb Asgrow as well. When you're trying to do on-farm visits or you're having your sales folks come out and have those conversations and, whether it's seeing how the current year is going or prepping for that next year, there are some challenges. If you're not comfortable with somebody coming onto your farm or getting up into the cab of your tractor, maybe you're okay with it if they have a mask on, maybe you're not. There are a lot of those conversations that I think folks that call on farmers have to be cognizant of now. Are you going to walk into their shop and have those conversations with them face to face, or do you really have to start scheduling different times, or do we do more things virtually like we do over Zoom? And in talking with Dad was very. He didn't want to have a lot of those interactions, right? So it was one of those, especially throughout his healing side. So it was, hey, how can we get all of these things done without having that face-to-face connectivity there? And that presents its own challenges in itself. Relationships, how key they are within agriculture. It's tough to build that relationship when you are working over the phone or you're working over Zoom as quick or as good as what you can face-to-face. So we did have a little bit of learning there, just making some of those in-season decisions. But I do have to tell one quick story. I talked about the frost, right? And that frost knocked out some of our plant population. And so it was really cool. I had a friend of mine come out. He flew the field with a drone, and I was able to send that image to Dad and actually have that conversation with him, trying to determine whether or not we were going to replant or not. And it was just really neat to be able to use some of those digital tools, like our drone and utilizing our field view maps. Literally, as he's in the hospital, I kid you not, Rick, he had his iPad with him. Like that's those are the tools that he's using, right? So I think a lot of that can be related back to COVID as well. Of we are utilizing a lot more of our digital tools at this point in time.
It's really seemed like it's accelerated a lot too. I mean, let's be honest here. I'm upset about the lack of pork steaks that I had at Field Days this summer too, but we have had some positives that come out of this. I mean, people have gotten more comfortable utilizing the video technology. We figured out how to do more things digitally, and that's going to create efficiencies for the future. It'll be really exciting to see how some of these things come together once we're a little bit more opened up, and we can have those face-to-face interactions. We can congregate with each other. I think that we're still going to see a lot of benefit from some of the testing and learning that we had to do just to stay connected in these tough times.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think, I look at Mom and Dad, and they both, they run Android phones, right? And he runs his iPad, but he runs an Android phone. So they were getting on and figuring out, I think it's like Google Duo, right? Is like the Google's FaceTime, basically. And it's been kind of funny because they're getting on and learning these new applications to stay connected with whether it's family, and all of a sudden, here you go, I get a Google Duo video coming in from either Mom or Dad at random times now. And we probably never utilized video calls until this year. We'd always rely on text or regular calls, but we are starting to see that transition. So I do think it is pushing people to utilize that technology a lot more.
Well, let's wrap up 2020 on this note. So, if you look back at this past season, if you dig into the Clint Schaffer book of wisdom, what's the one thing that you're going to put in there that you've learned from 2020? What's your biggest takeaway on something you think you'll be able to take forward and use to your benefit on the farm in the future?
Yeah, I think the one word that would come to mind would be patience. And I think if I haven't learned anything in 2020 besides patience, I think I'm coming out of this year pretty well. And that's patience with again with the farming operation on all the different pieces of the puzzle that go into farming. It's patience with working through these digital digital connections. Surprisingly, Rick, we've been on Zoom and you haven't froze. I haven't froze. Typically we have to worry about those things and have patience while we work through them. So that would be, that's my key takeaway from 2020. I think I have gained a vast amount of patience working through this.
Well, that's a good thing, and I'm going to ask you to exercise some of that patience now, Clint, because we're going to play a game you're not ready for. As I was going through your Around the Farm notes and materials that you left behind, and by the way, you just left behind a mess of stuff. You could have at least picked up a little bit for me here. But as I took over the desk and started to look through some things, I found some headshots, glamour shots, some pictures of Clint Schaffer. And I wanted to go ahead and flash these up on screen for you here and get some reactions from you, because I'm very confused as to what the thought process was that gets you to a place where these are the faces that we're seeing here. So here's the first one that we've got on screen. Can you see that there, Clint?
I can.
What do we call this one? Because I got to tell you, in my mind, when I look at this picture, it says to me, I just ate a cheap steak dinner and I'm now uncomfortable from how much I've eaten. Is that where you were going here?
No, I think you misread this one. You got to go back to my comic book side of my, I'm a big comic book fan. This is my best impression of Two-Face. That's what I was trying to deliver here.
You're going for Two-Face, because I was going to go with, I can see Two-Face a little bit. I was going to go with Grimace from the 80s McDonald's commercials with that face there, buddy.
All right, I'll need to work on that one a little more.
Let's move on to the next shot here. Oh, look at this one. This one to me says, "Hey, I just got a nice new pair of white New Balances, and I am dadding at 1,000%."
Well, at least you didn't say farmersonly.com, right? So at least that's good.
Now that I look at that, I mean, that could be a profile picture there?
No, I don't think my wife would be happy if that was the case. But I can see the white New Balances. I like that. I like that perception. There's probably some cargo pants on there as well.
I could definitely see some cargo pants there. It's pretty obvious to me that you were actually posing here to try to become a mannequin at the front of Old Navy. I mean, you couldn't possibly look more like one of those guys.
Fair enough.
Let's keep her going. Whoa, he's excited. Here's excited, Schaffer. Look at this guy. I don't even know what to make of this. Can you tell me what's going through your mind here, buddy?
You know, that's just sheer excitement that I knew I was leaving the show in a great host hands, and I was just so happy that it was going to be Rick Myrup coming in to take over. That was it. That's
the story you're going with, because the producers have told me that this was actually captured the moment that you saw that they were bringing in pastrami sandwiches for lunch, and this is the face that you made once you found out that you were getting a pastrami hoagie.
I stand corrected. I think you're right. That is correct.
It's a good look. There's so much joy on this face here. I mean, just a joyful guy. Oh, and then we've got this one here. So this one I like to call Confused Schaffer.
Yeah, this is the look that I have when I argue with myself, right? So it's kind of the left brain, right brain arguing against each other right here. You know, that's what's happening.
This is kind of like the inverse of Two-Face here. You're trying to be One-Face here, trying to go for the Cyclops.
Yeah, sure.
We'll go with that there. What's next here? Oh, we got Hercules. Look at this guy here. Were you going through? Was this part of the portion of the photo shoot where you were trying to do like some Hulk Hogan stuff? Did you tear that Field View vest off at some point to Real American?
No, that was actually a Field View coat.
Oh, and you tore the sleeves off. That's how.
Yeah, as soon as I flexed, bang! It turned into a vest. That's how I produce my own vest nowadays.
I see that. I mean, tickets to the gun show is what we're going to call this one in the future. Oh, look at this guy here. I like to call this one Shooter Schaffer right here. It's not Shooter McGavin, it's Shooter Schaffer.
Yeah, you know, I'm just thinking, you know, right there, that was my best politician, you know, phase, and I'm like, hey, Schaffer 2024. That's the face that I'm going with right there.
I mean, it's a face you can trust right there. It's the first thing you see at Old Navy. The thumb is up. It's the universal symbol for happiness and acceptance. It's unquestionable. Here we've got it in motion. I mean, this is truly capturing the essence of Clint Schaffer. He's throwing the people's eyebrow on you from The Rock. There's finger pointing. There's thumbs up. Every universal symbol for friendly acceptance is happening right here, buddy.
If only I did the scissors, it would have been Joey from Full House doing "Cut It Out," man. That's what I should have been doing here.
Producer Andrew, go ahead and wrap the show. We've got a Full House reference. I can quit now. And then we get to here. I mean, so you were just loopy here. Tell me, did they serve you at least 3 Jack and Diets before we got to this portion of double shooters, double gun, full dad? This, I got to tell you, for all of our listeners that don't know about Clint Schaffer and his affinity for dad jokes, I've seen this face before. I've seen those double shooters before. I guarantee that he had just told a hilariously awful dad joke right before this motion happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you know it's important or you know it's funny when you got to take out both handguns, right? You know, I mean, that's both finger guns there. So
firing both finger guns at the exact same time. This is just the most spectacular thing I've ever seen in my life, Clint.
It's something. It's something. You can turn it off any time now.
I don't know. I was kind of thinking about just leaving that going in the background here. I've actually now going to put that on as my screensaver so that I never miss out on double shooter Schaffer.
Oh, you know, I think that the interesting part is, you know, and it's hilarious to go through some of these headshots. But I too was talking to the guys, and I heard that sometimes you may have a few bloopers that end up getting ran.
This is impossible. This is impossible. No chance.
Oh, that's not what I heard. I wonder if we have a few that we can play.
Someday there's going to be amazing mixtape of outtakes.
Yeah, just wait on that one.
And here we go. This is Around the Farm, and I'm your host, Rick Myrup. On today's episodes, we're going to be talking from episodes? I got an idea. Give me a second. Can I wear sunglasses? Hello, Internet. I didn't notice you there. Can that be my thing? This is what I get for trying to go off script, Andrew. I just need to memorize this thing. How have I not memorized this thing by now? All right, what am I saying? Yeah, I'm not great at scripts. I'm like Katniss from the Hunger Games. You can't script me.
Ron Burgundy will read whatever is on the telephone.
I suppose I should introduce myself as well, huh?
Santiago.
I mean, the whole world is not aware of me yet. And I'm your host, Rick Myrup.
Blah.
And I'm your host, Rick Myrup. I forgot the second part. I forgot what I was supposed to say after that. Full-scale farm research farm at the climate blah, 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 blah. Try that again. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's give it a shot. Take 2. Well, as we wrap up today, I want to take some time. Oh God, really appreciate challenging season. Someday I'm going to memorize this outro, Andrew. And while you're giving feedback, we never turn down those 5-star rewards. Yeah, blew up there. Blew up. Need another one? Or are we good? Yeah, I don't know. I'll do it again. I'll do one more and then we'll be done. We'll just do it again. It's better to have safety than not have one while we're here. Safety. Thanks for joining us on Around the Farm. And as always, we'll see you around the farm. I always wanted to sound smooth. Those were obviously highly doctored. I feel like there was a lot of computer-generated graphics going on there. I'm not sure how you dubbed in my voice. It's impossible.
It's always good when you have an outtake and you have tears, after you watch it. That was fantastic. And I love the maniacal laughter at the end. That was just fantastic, man.
What we've learned here is that I'm very consistent, Clint, and I do the exact same things over and over and over again.
Hey, consistency is sometimes that's a good thing. So,
well, hey, it's been a lot of fun taking over the podcast, and I know you had imparted some wisdom on me as you moved on from hosting the show. If you think back now, quite a while removed from when you were hosting Around the Farm, what were some of your favorite things about? I'm trying to add to the blooper reel right now, as you can see. What were some of your favorite things about hosting Around the Farm?
Yeah, I would say it was incredibly fun. I mean, just in general. And I would say it was funny. I'm going to look at this on a couple different perspectives. We were recording, of course, in studio, and that was the first studio that I'd ever walked into. So there was a little bit of a wow factor of walking in there and just working with the guys and being able to sit across from a lot of our great guests and everything and having these conversations. So there was a wow factor for me that was just really cool. The other aspect and the more important aspect was really just having that opportunity to talk to all sorts of different individuals within the agricultural community. We talked to agronomists, we talked to different folks within retail. I got to interview my dad during Father's Day. That was a fun one. But really just a lot of folks, and it really connects you through the whole community within agriculture is really what it did. And for that, I'll forever be grateful for being on that show. So that's really my outlook on that.
It is a lot of fun to be able to talk to so many different folks with different perspectives, different looks into agriculture, and all the things that are happening. Really taking more of a technology slant to it, and trying to bring information to farmers. And I know, Clint, from my perspective, I've always felt like it's really important that we give folks an opportunity to share these real world stories with farmers, because I just think it's so much easier for them to relate to.
No, absolutely, and that's always. That's how I've looked at a lot of things, I guess, throughout my career and just in agriculture as well. I think anytime you can relate something back to a real story of how it actually happened, I think it always resonates a lot more. And I think you're going to connect. You're going to connect with the crowd quicker. You're going to connect with a farmer quicker. Whoever you're trying to connect to, you're going to connect quicker with a real story, which is probably why. I do tell a lot of stories about our operation, but hey, that's how I get that information across. So,
well, speaking of stories about your operation and your family there with Schaffer Farms, Clint, rumor has it that you're pulling together a bit of a new podcast that's really going to be focused on the Schaffer lifestyle up there in northwestern Illinois.
Yeah, I got a little hobby podcast that my sister and I, my sister Tara and I are co-hosting, and just telling a lot of fun stories about growing up on the farm and different hobbies that we have and things of that nature. So if I can plug, I would say it's called You, Me, and a Fence Post. So yeah.
It's already on my subscribe list. It's comedy gold, filled with hearts, with soul, with laughter. Did I say enough nice things about it to get that steak dinner you promised me?
Yes, but you can keep going if you'd like.
Are there Oscars? Producer Andrew, are there Oscars for podcasts? Because I think this is going to win one. The Francis Ford Coppola of podcasting.
Hey, there we go.
Well, hey, Clint, we've been asking a lot of our guests recently as we get them out the door for their best pearl of wisdom for farming. So as our former host and friend of the show, I'll ask you for yours. If you think back about all the things you've learned, the wisdom that's been imparted on you from different folks you've worked with, what's your favorite pearl of wisdom as it pertains to farming?
Yeah, I really look back. I mean, I know it may be, we've talked about it a lot, but I still go back to a technology piece and always be willing to continue to try going further, right? On your operation, continue to push the envelope with technology, stay on the cutting edge. And even though there's times where it may not be comfortable, in the end, you're going to be happy that you did. I think the reward from staying out there on that cutting edge and continuing to push with technology, to me, I think is one of the most important aspects. I think you gain efficiency, you gain performance, and that goes not just on digital technology. It goes in trait technology. It goes in all of our genetics. It goes in all of those different pieces. But staying on that cutting edge of technology and continuing to try pushing your farm, I think is always a good decision.
Really sticking with it. Words to live by there. Continue to try new things, stick with those things, figure it out, and there's usually a reward at the end of that.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Clint, we appreciate you spending so much time with us here on a 2-part episode of Around the Farm to wrap up the 2020 season. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Rick, for having me. This has been an absolute blast. And I know, if Gizmo was sitting here, he'd be saying thank you as well. So,
I mean, let's be honest here. The reason we had you on was because we wanted to have Gizmo on. He may become a regular contributor on the show. He's actually going to be my new Ed McMahon.
That's fair enough. I'm okay with that.
Well, hey, as we wrap it up here, as always, I want to thank our listeners for listening in here in 2020. We know that this has been a season of change, and as we've moved from just being a podcast to also having the vidcast now on YouTube and all your favorite social media platforms, we appreciate all the time that you've spent with us through the year and hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit and being entertained at the same time. Hey, as we wrap up the year here, if you have any support needs from FieldView in the winter, never hesitate to reach out to our support team. They'll be there all year. You can get them at 888-924-7475 or by email at support@climate.com. And if you want to learn more about some of the things we've been talking about on the show about staying connected in these challenging times, you can visit us at climate.com/stay-connected to learn more about how you can use FieldView to stay connected to those people around your farm. Hey folks, as always, it's been a blast, and we'll see you around the farm.